This lesson, Account for Variation, talks about the inherent uncertainty and the risk that happens on work efforts. And warning, we're going to be seeing a lot of uncertainty and variation ahead. This is the reality of any kind of work. When we're working on a thing, we know there are some things we don't know yet. Sometimes things turn out one way, sometimes things turn out another way. To illustrate that, let's go to the whiteboard. Let's imagine a non trivial drive to someplace like work. Let's say you're at home and I'll draw a house up here. What I want you to note though, that when I'm drawing my house, I put a door and a window on it because I read a study once that children who were abused when they were very small did not put doors and windows on their houses. I want you to know I had a very happy childhood. Now let's draw the drive to work. Let's draw the work as a jail cell. Let's say you're leaving at 8 a.m. I request an estimate to the minute how long it will take you to get to work. By the way, your next two paychecks are based on how good your estimate is. You would probably say that you're not comfortable with creating an estimate with that high of precision. I act shocked because I know you've driven this before. I also know that there's a formula for this: distance equals speed times time. I again request an estimate for precisely how long the drive will take you and with your next two paychecks writing on it. Again, as a reasonable person, you are not comfortable with that. I ask why not? Because you might say there are lights I may or may not make. It may be green, or I may need to sit there for a minute or so. There may be a backup at the light, or there may not. I also don't know how much traffic there is going to be on this particular morning. I was also with one group that had a railroad crossing they had to go across, so train delay was a possibility. Or there might be a bus or a school bus or something they get behind that causes some delay. So there's lots of things you don't know yet. And so you're not comfortable giving me that precise of an estimate. What would make you comfortable? You would probably want a range that accounted for the things you don't know yet. If you're leaving at 8, maybe you need the possibility of being 2 minutes early and up to 15 minutes late from your estimate. I say, okay, fine. You can have that range. But what if you're halfway there? Do you still need that whole range? You don't need that much of a range because you now know some things you didn't know before. You made some lights, you didn't make other lights. You know the level of traffic that's out there this particular morning. About halfway there, you need only between 5 minutes and 1 minute. As you get near the parking lot, maybe it's just a minute or 30 seconds either way. You start seeing a pattern here where your range, based on the things you know, is really wide at the beginning and starts to narrow pretty quickly. This is what we call the cone of uncertainty. The cone of uncertainty talks about the inherent uncertainty given a particular process. Every process has inherent uncertainty, and it often starts wide and narrows because we start learning quickly as we do the work how this instance of the process is shaping up. Many do not want to acknowledge the inherent uncertainty. They want a plan that has little to no uncertainty. What is fascinating here is that if I ask you to think hard about your drive, how much certainty can you plan away? What you quickly discover is that you can't change it. It's inherent in the process itself. You cannot plan away inherent uncertainty. We must start to execute the process to resolve the uncertainty of that particular instance of the process. To change inherent uncertainty, you must change the process. Like, let's say you leave at 2 a.m. Well, the ranges may not be as big at 2 a.m. because no one else is on the road, no school buses, narrow range. Or maybe you change the process by changing your method of transportation. You use a catapult. You can tell me very precisely how long it will take you to get there. What you just can't tell me very precisely is what your condition for work is going to be when you arrive. Or another one is moving your house right next to the office. This is kind of what Agile does with its short iterations. Very short iterations allow very little time for inherent uncertainty to grow. The longer and the more complex the process, the more inherent uncertainty. Inherent uncertainty is one thing that drives a lot of variability. Another thing is special cause variability or special cause uncertainty. Special cause variation are things like, does your car have mechanical issues? Maybe it has a flat tire, a dead battery, something like that. They normally don't happen, but they could happen. Or there's a severe weather event, a flash flood, heavy thunderstorms. Where I live in the Pacific Northwest, snow snarls everything. Or maybe there's some sort of emergency action going on, some sort of event or protest, or just a fire that I must avoid. There are some things that might happen, but normally don't. But they could happen. In our world, we call that project risk. And you use risk management to deal with these kinds of things. You can do a little bit of planning or a little bit of mitigation. Like I think if I might have a flat tire, I carry a spare. Or I can have a backup car that has a different set of variations. To sum up, there's common cause variation, which we call inherent uncertainty, and special cause variation that we call project risk. I think there are four notes you can walk away with from this lesson. First, there are things we don't know yet. Once we start executing a process, we'll learn them. This is common cause variation. We don't know yet, but we will resolve it one way or another. Common cause or inherent uncertainty cannot be planned away. We must do the work. However, we can lower the uncertainty by changing the process. And this is what Agile has kind of done. It says we're going to change it to short processes, short iterations, a couple of weeks. We're going to have very little inherent uncertainty and little opportunity even for special cause uncertainty or project risk. Finally, special cause uncertainty or variation or project risk can often be mitigated by doing a little extra work, like carrying a spare or leaving a little bit early. Good project leadership will mitigate project risk by changing some known early in the work.